Good morning, good morning, good morning, Grand Rising. Welcome to Soulful Solutions. My name is Dr. Debbie Green. It's so nice having you with me today. And I know you've seen me before, but you know what? Hey, it's always a wonderful day. Hey, it's another day to do marvelous things. Absolutely, absolutely. Before we go into our topic today, I want to ask you, you know, how are you feeling today? Did you rest all right last night? Is something heavy on your mind? Something been going on that you seem like you can't get a hold of, or, something that's been interfering in your life, any of those things, you know. If you find yourself in a place where it seems like you're constantly struggling just to keep your head above water, I want you to think about that today. Our topic is really a critical, very important topic. And it is based upon, so many things that happens in our lives on a daily basis. So sometimes when things get to the point where they get so overbearing, we don't know what else to do. We don't know who to turn to. I mean, we pray, and we expect God to be there, and He does, but it's still something missing. It's like I just feel myself losing my identity. I'm losing who I am to the situations or these situations that I've been dealing with in life for long periods of time. Well, I'm just here to tell you it's going to be all right. Let me encourage you today that no matter what you're going through, you got to take care of yourself. And it's not worth your life to allow anything outside of yourself take your peace. At some given time, some given space, you have to make a conscious decision to take care of yourself. And even if you don't know what to do, sometimes we have to be still and stay neutral and don't feel anything for the moment, no matter how bad it is. Don't feel anything for the moment. And just say, okay, let me pull myself back. Let me pull myself. I call it the power of pause. Because I feel like my heart is exploding, my mind is racing, and I don't know what else to do. I'm in this place called misery and torment. So at some given space and time, something has to change. Something has to break through. So just let me encourage you today. Let me encourage you today that you have the strength because you made it. You are a survivor. You're still here. No matter what is going on, you are still here. So you be encouraged. You be encouraged that you're going to move. As long as you keep moving, keep going. Take little baby steps if that's what you need to do, but don't give up. Don't give in. Don't think you have to remove yourself from this earth in order to get some peace. No, you just have to let go of the things that's bothering you. You don't have to hold on to bitterness. You don't have to hold on to anger. You don't have to hold on to guilt. You don't have to hold on to grief. Yes, I know you were hurt. I know. I understand. I can't feel what you feel, but I understand. But I just want to encourage you today. You will live and not die. Not die mentally, not die emotionally, not die spiritually, not die physically. You just have to move. You have to allow yourself to be present in the moment, no matter what it is. Because it ain't worth your love. It ain't worth your pain, your misery to hold on to anything. It's not worth it. It's just not worth it, y'all. It's enough people in the world that's constantly hurting and don't know how to come out of the pain. They have gotten addicted to it. They've laid with it, slept with it, ate with it. And I don't care if it's coming from a person, place, or thing. Let it go. Move on. So, our topic today is dealing with the silent killer, and that's suicide. This is a very critical topic, very delicate topic, and it is the 11th leading cause to death. The 11th, because we have many leading causes of death, but this is the 11th. How someone will get in so much pain that they would take their own life. So just sit tight and maybe grab a pen and pencil, and maybe you'll learn a little something to save your life or save someone else's life. So you be encouraged today. You be encouraged today. And I thank you so much again for joining me as we continue our journey. Because this journey sometimes comes with so many situations and circumstances. But I tell you what, if you remain neutral and start observing and stop feeling, you'll notice something will happen in your life. You observe people. You say, what does that mean, Dr. Green? That means stop feeling what you think you're feeling from them, you know? And the thing about it, whether you're in a relationship, family, on a job, it does not matter. Start observing and stop feeling. Because sometimes when we feel too much, it causes us more pain. You don't have to do that. You don't have to live this way. I know other people may want to, you know, they say push your buttons. That's what they say. Oh, you push my buttons. Remove the button and it won't get pushed. And better yet, how did the button get in there in the first place? From childhood trauma? From what you believe about yourself and the world? So those things have to be changed. In order for you to survive, you got to change the way you're responding to the world. Everything outside of yourself, you got to change. It's not worth the pain. It's not worth the misery. You're too blessed to be stressed. If it's finances, think about the next thing that you need to do to make it happen. There's many ways to make money. Is if it's what is it? Relationships? Someone's leaving, or you want to get out of one? There's other solutions other than hurting yourself or taking your life. I don't know what it could be. I'm just throwing it out there. But again, we're going to discuss some things and we're going to go forth. Okay? I'm going to introduce my co host.
Grand Rising.
Grand Rising, how are you?
I'm fantastic. How are you?
I'm doing very well, thank you. Thank you so much. Welcome, Naima Latif, our executive producer of the Female Solution. And we were waiting on a guest, but she has not arrived yet.
Yeah,
So,
she's on the way. I'll make sure that
yes,
she found the link. Okay.
yeah, that's fine. That's
Yeah, I
fine.
talked to her this morning, so I know she's
Okay,
on the way.
okay. No problem, no problem. So we're just going to go ahead and we're going to chat until that time.
Yes.
Absolutely. What I was telling my viewers and listeners that I wanted to give them some statistics, because I know the blog talk, if they have read that little script I put in there, far as the statistics of suicide,
Hmm.
how does it affect the United States? So that's where I'm focusing on because global is a different, it
Wow.
is a different, yeah, because it affects us globally. But I was just really focusing on the United States because those numbers are higher when it goes to globally because of different cultures believing that sacrifice, suicide is a way of, satisfying the higher powers as be. So it's, we've heard of suicidal bombers and things of that nature. But as far as the United States is concerned, suicide is linked to depression. It's linked to more of the mental illness, and also the rage at heart, as I call it.
Yes.
Yeah, the
Um,
rage at
uh,
heart.
yeah, I might need to step away just one moment and just
Okay,
make sure that our guests can connect.
okay, no problem. So let me go ahead and give you some statistics on that. Um, Again, as I was saying, that suicide ranks number 11, number 11 in the leading causes of death. Is at its highest rate in white males. Is at its highest rates in white males. And males are more subject to suicide than females, women, you know. And because men are more emotional, I know that may be hard to believe because we always think of emotions as crying, things of that. But emotions can also go other directions, such as extreme anger and rage. And those areas, a person can literally lose their perspective of life when they get into an area of rage. Rage then blinds the human mind, and they literally are not present mentally. So they would do things out of malice, out of their pain, and not actually think about, okay, oh my goodness, what am I doing before they do it? It's always after the fact. And we've seen this many, many times before. We've seen, and we've heard about, serial killings where a man would take a gun and he would, uh, you know, use that gun against himself and his family. And remember, that person loved these people. So what happened? How did he or she even get to that level, you know, in their minds where they no longer value life? It's very interesting, the human mind, when it's under pressure. Pressure breaks the pipes. That's why stress kills and destroys the human being. When we're under massive amounts of pressure, we cannot think, we get mind fog, we feel that we are disconnected with ourselves and even with the world. And we get in a place where we cannot control ourselves or anything that we feel in that moment. So it is very prevalent that it just seems like the right thing to do to that person because they are in a place where they can't see out. It's almost like being in a tunnel, and you're in this tunnel. There's no other, it's like this, everything is closed off. All the thoughts that you're thinking are just pivotal on just the pain. There's nothing else outside. And the pain comes from different thoughts, different situations, different circumstances. It could happen from years ago to now. And it just keeps building and building and building until you literally start again to break down mentally first, emotionally second, and then spiritually. And then, of course, the last result is physically. So it is a process. And, I think it's a process over a period of time. I do not think is something right in the moment. I think a person ponders on it for a period of time before they do it. And they don't weigh their options because they don't look at options. They only are focused on the have not. They're not focused on the have because if they were, that would save their lives. Statistically, I want to give you some of the statistics so that we can get a really good understanding of what happens. And this is according to the CDC, not just me. I like to keep things, according to the guidelines. According to the guidelines. Okay. All right. Shall I let you back on? You ready?
Yes, I believe
Okay.
our guest is on as well.
Okay. All right. I think she's having some difficulties connecting, so I'll let her keep trying. Again, suicide is the 11th leading cause of the U.S. in since 2021. Um, 48 up to since 2021. Now they have not done the statistics for 23 yet. This was just since 21. It was 48,183 deaths. And in 2021, there was an estimated of 1.770 million attempts.
Wow. Wow.
Suicide attempts which did not go forth but was interrupted by something, by some person. They probably attempted to try, but it did not work. And the age adjusted suicide rate in 2021 was 14.04 per 100,000 individuals. Now, age adjustment suicide, which means that we know, and just for the sake of knowing, I do work to the mental health hospital, so I deal with, I work with, I actually counsel individuals that uh, have attempted suicide in the past more than once. And again, mental illness is real, okay? It is not a facade. It's not something that people just say, oh, I'm just having a bad day. No, it's way more than that. If you never experienced it, you never would understand it. It's it literally, as I can say, I can describe it as a patient describes it to me. It is like a heavy weight upon me. And it feels like it's holding me down. No matter how much I struggle to get up, I'm powerless.
I have a question. How did you know, or is there a line between when depression turns into mental illness? I know a lot of people, as you describe it, probably have felt that way if they're going through something difficulty, some difficulty, if they're going through something that is making them sad, maybe a grief or a loss or uh, a breakup. And, you had that period of depression where you're sad all the time. It might even be difficult to get out of bed. You just don't have the energy to do anything because you're so sad. And you might even feel like, what's the point of even living? I don't want to keep living and feeling this. So at what point does that feeling of sadness and depression turn into mental illness, where you're at the point where you choose to take your own life or are seriously considering taking your own life? How do you know when you've crossed the line between a temporary mood or a temporary period of sadness or grief or feeling of loss into the point where you can become self-destructive?
It's time and frequency. Time
Mm.
and frequency. Okay, the normal moods such as frustration, agitation, irritation, sadness, these type of things. Because the thing about this is there's always a root cause to something. So usually if a person is battling depression or some type of mental illness that's causing this, because mental illness just doesn't cause depression. Let me say that. Depression comes on when trauma is has been present for periods of time, and it's almost again we're not born mentally ill, so life happens.
Mm.
Now, we do have genetic um, connections such as schizophrenia, those areas, schizoaffective, certain type of mental illnesses do have a genetic transfer. But depression, if your mother was depressed, grandfather, grandmother, that doesn't mean that you would be depressed as well. It's what it
Mm.
means if your mother is carrying you into utero and she's feeling depressed, when you are born, you will be more emotional than most. We call
Wow.
it emotionally sensitive.
Because
Okay,
you're
emotion.
affected by your mother's emotions in the womb. I think our guest is backstage as well.
I don't. Yeah, she's her
You don't
picture
see her.
hasn't popped up yet. It says
Oh, okay.
device is not connected. I don't. I don't see her picture, so I don't know. Yeah, I don't see her picture unless she needs to turn on her video, maybe. Or
Yeah, yeah, maybe that's it. I'll text her and see if you can make sure she turns her video on, because she can
yeah,
hear and
maybe she
see,
just
but you can't.
right. Yeah, she probably can hear us, but I can't. I can't. I don't have a picture yet. So
Yes,
hopefully,
we'll keep working at it. So
okay.
by break we'll have her on. But yeah,
Yes, absolutely.
I think of a lot of women who went through serious depression during pregnancy. And so would you say if you are pregnant and more
Post.
than just the usual hormonal changes, you're in a stressful situation, maybe even feel like either your life is in danger because maybe you are experiencing extreme financial loss, maybe homeless, or just the hostility, maybe the father of the child didn't want the child, didn't want you anymore. I mean, all of those kinds of situations that a lot of women are going through during the time of their pregnancy. How is that affecting the developing child inside of them biologically, biochemically, where they could end up being a sad, depressed child?
Well, first, let me say this. Usually, even in postpartum, it's more hormonal imbalance. If there's no external factors, I just want to make that point before answering your question. If there's no external factors like environmental factors, like they may be in a healthy environment, but they still feel depressed, the hormones that where we're carrying a child are sometimes interchange, and they affect the hormones in the brain, and that causes the postpartum depression as well. So just so you know that it's not just always environment. That just if the environmental factors are not at peace, it just adds to what that mother is feeling. You see what I'm saying? But if
Mm,
she can also have postpartum depression if without anything outside of herself because of the hormone imbalance
mm,
when carrying a child. That's how it also can happen. It can also happen like that too. So again, yes, the baby will feel that emotional area there, and A lot of times the baby comes out maybe colicky. I don't know if you ever heard of colic,
Now, that's when they
where
cry all the time for no reason.
yes, yes,
Is it no
yes.
reason? Are they in pain? Why are they crying? Because I've heard of colic,
Emotion,
they cry, but
yeah,
what is
well,
that?
well, most of the time, I mean, years ago, they would think, oh, it could just be gas, let's pack the baby or whatever. But what we found out was just through my studies, Naima, that babies that are very agitated or irritated, during the first, trimester of their lives, like the
First
first
try.
3 months,
Wow. So
yeah,
that's
they're
sometimes
that
before the mother even knows she's pregnant.
right. Yes. Before
Wow.
the baby even knows. Like, if, okay, normally a woman does not even know she's pregnant until she starts to conceive. Conceive, which means the womb starts to grow. She starts feeling some type of way,
Mm-hmm.
unless it's a planned pregnancy. That means they're watching. But if it's not that, then it could be 6 to 8 weeks of her going through all of these things that she's going through, and the baby is still being formed in the womb.
Mm-hmm.
And so, if she's under a lot of emotional pressure, what I'm saying, stress, then the baby will be emotionally sensitive after it's born, and it has, um, like, it just really feels like agitated, irritated. It cries consistently. The first trimester is a really rough month. You have to really keep them bundled. And there's a way to kind of soothe babies that are like that,
Mm.
because it's also with the alcohol syndrome and drug induced pregnancies. Far as when I say drug induced, which means that the mother was on some type of a substance or whatever, you have to bundle them really tightly, like wrap them up into a swaddle cloth and rock them. Like you wrap them tightly and rock them, and that's when they have to have motion for them to calm down. And usually, what I've also saw in adolescents, as even some adults, what they'll find out that helps them is also with a heavy, it's called a weighted blanket. I don't know if anyone's ever heard about that. The weighted blanket helps the anxiety and also helps the depression as well. The weighted blanket, so they'll be able to, you know, feel comfortable and not and take a lot of that pressure away. Yes, a lot of that pressure away.
Mm.
So yeah. So
Yeah. That's one
again,
of
go
that's
ahead.
one of the things that concerns me with a lot of women now who are producing children. There's so much stress in our lives as women, and young women are under a tremendous amount of stress. And if the children that are being conceived during this period, this very critical first period, are feeling that, then that's shaping the next generation that's going to come out with a lot of emotional damage before they're even born. I've seen signs of it even while teaching school. There's just a lot of young mothers had children with extreme kinds of emotional reactions, and just knowing the circumstances that the mothers had the children, a lot of drama in their lives with the fathers and all of that. And we know our children tend to get diagnosed with ADHD at very high rates. But I'm thinking that a lot of the issues have to do with that early pregnancy experience.
Right. Yes, it does. It does. A lot of things happen in before our children are born. That we are exposed to so many different factors from our parental influencers, and it is a high rate. it's a high rate, to that as well. So I want to also go into. I just saw our guest come back on. I saw the picture, but I don't know if she knew that the picture came on or not.
Oh,
Or she
okay.
went back off again. Okay. I think she's coming on.
Oh,
There she
great.
is. Okay.
Oh, fantastic. All right.
All right. I got you.
Great.
This was crazy. I was on virtually. I'm at home and I'm able to access my work desktop. And I went in virtually for my VPN, and that is probably why it wasn't connected with my laptop. So I did not realize.
Oh.
My apologies. I have wasted 30 minutes of your time, but I've been
Oh,
listening to the
Oh
we
conversation.
were just
no,
prepping the
no, you're
audience for you.
fine.
I've been
It's
listening to
okay.
the
Time
Wonderful.
is never wasted. Trust
Yeah.
me.
You know how you had an
No,
opening act
Misha.
before the main event when you go to a show. So we were just opening for you.
Open.
That's all.
Okay, well, that's a beautiful thing.
Yes, ma'am.
Goodness.
Yes, ma'am. All is well. All is well. Welcome, Dr. Twin Green. Welcome, welcome, welcome again. Again. Absolutely. It's a wonderful seeing you today. Like I say, a delay is not denial. Okay. So it's all right.
Okay, I
It
feel like
is
technology
okay.
is not get the best of me today.
Yes, that's
Well, we got
right.
to take a quick commercial break.
Mhm.
But when we come back, we'll get a chance to introduce our guest and the upcoming event, and talk more about how we can help those who are emotionally, mentally, psychologically disturbed, so we can bring them back to mental health. So we will be right back after this quick break. And we want you all to stick and stay. Don't stray away. If you're listening online and want to join this conversation, give us a call, 515-605-9325. And press 1. That lights your number up on our studio and lets us know you have something to say. You're listening to and watching
And
Soulful
please
Solutions with Dr. Debbie Green. And of course, if you're on
subscribe to
our YouTube and
YouTube,
Facebook
please. Thank
channel,
you. Thank you.
yes, like and share on Facebook and YouTube. Make sure you subscribe so that you can get the regular notices whenever Dr. Debbie goes live. So we will be right back. And of course, again, if you are watching on Facebook or YouTube on Soulful Solutions with Dr. Debbie Green, make sure that you write in your comments. We can bring them up on the screen so that our listening and viewing audience can share your thoughts. And if you are listening on the switchboard, make sure you press 1 so that we know you want to participate in the conversation. And of course, our guest today is Dr. Twin Green, and she's done some amazing things that we want to know about and definitely want to be able to uh, hear more about the upcoming event that is scheduled for the end of the month. All right. Okay. And we will be right back after this break. So stay with us.
What happens when a group of people are kidnapped from their homes, smuggled away in chains, and held captive in a foreign land where they are tortured, raped, and forced to perform hard labor by the lash of a whip and under the constant threat of death? Slavery, the African American psychic trauma. What happened to the doctors, writers, scientists, builders, educators, and spiritual leaders from Africa's golden age? Who did they really capture and sell into slavery? Are all African Americans suffering from psychic trauma because of a conspiracy to hide their true identities? Do you have psychic trauma? Take the test on page 22 of the book and see. Order it online today at www.naimalatif.com. That's www.naimalatif.com. And get your personally autographed copy of the book, Slavery, the African American Psychic Trauma. Do you want to live in a world without war? Join our global peace movement. Heavenly Culture World Peace Restoration of Life transcends culture, religion, ideology, and other boundaries to achieve peaceful harmony in the global society. HWPL is committed to bringing world peace and cessation of war through peaceful dialogue between religious groups. I am Director Shin-Suk Kim of the HWPL Chicago branch of North America. Join us for our next gathering. Call 773-580-1501 and be a part of the movement for world peace. Email us at chicagohwpl@gmail.com. I'm Beata, your holistic life coach. These days, it's more important than ever to work on your physical, mental, emotional, and spiritual health. Are you consciously breathing deeply in stressful moments? Do you have a plan or daily routine to maintain balance in your awesome body? Are you struggling to be disciplined in your eating habits? When you partner with me, I'll help you develop a personalized health plan that works for your particular lifestyle. You can find out more about me at yourholisticlifecoach.com, where you can also review my 3-step protocol to guide you to abundant health. That's yourholisticlifecoach.com, and I'm Beata.
All right, welcome back. Welcome back to Soulful Solutions. My name is Dr. Debbie Green, and with our wonderful co-host, Naima Latif, of our executive producer of the Female Solution, and our wonderful guest today, Dr. Twin Green. And please, could you quote what organization that you're with, please?
The Lincoln Option Center.
What organization are you with? I can't hear you. I'm sorry.
Can you not hear me? Can you hear me?
Yeah, we hear you. Just say it again.
Okay.
I can hear you. I can hear you now.
And Option Center.
Link Options Center.
Yes, the Link and Option Center.
Link and Options Center.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. And where are you all located?
We're located.
Okay, and that's located where?
It's located in South Holland. We have our administrative office in South Holland, 900 East, 162nd Street, Suite 102.
And South Holland is just a little south of Chicago.
Okay.
South Suburban. This is South Suburban Cook County area.
Right. Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
Like 15 minutes.
Yes, ma'am. Well, I just wanted to, so our listeners. Yeah, so our listeners will know exactly where you're located. That's why I was asking, because I mean I know it's Chicago, but I just want to make sure our listeners know exactly where you're located, so they'll know where the gala is for sure. Absolutely. What I wanted to do, I definitely wanted to, yes, ma'am. I wanted to talk about the gala as well as again, because our topic today is dealing with loss of life, and is your organization, any focus on any of these areas that are prevalent when it comes to mental illness?
Yes, the Lincoln Option Center is a certified community mental health center. So that is our primary focus, is mental health. We provide all psychiatric type services, a menu of psychiatric type services for mental health, as well as addiction treatment. We really put a lot of emphasis on integrated health, because we know that one can have a mental health condition as well as a chronic health condition and not even look at or pay much attention to their physical health and their medical needs, which can also exacerbate the reason why you're coming to get uh, mental health services, because you're depressed, because you're in pain a lot. So that association is quite true, and we want to make sure that we're doing integrated health. So we uh, coordinate primary care and behavioral health care in one setting comprehensively, so our patients and our clients know that they're being taken care of uh, from both areas. And that's so important to make sure that people have access to care, but good coordinated care. And I love your topic.
Yes, ma'am.
I just want to say that.
Now, I have a question as a lay
Absolutely.
person. We know that there's a lot of mental health issues across the nation, across the world, but in the medical field, is there more than just medication used as a remedy? I tend to find that when somebody's got a mental problem and then, they go to a doctor and they get put on medication, and that more or less keeps them almost in a zombie-like state, but it doesn't address the causes of their mental illness. I was looking up, like Dr. Twin was talking about the physical illnesses and how that can maybe exacerbate or even cause the mental illness. And I was doing a little research on some brain disorders, like Parkinson's, for an example, because a lot of our seniors develop that. And in researching, I found that it is triggered often by a deep emotional trauma.
Mm-hmm.
So if the emotional state of a person actually changes their biochemical reaction in their bodies and affects their brain chemistry, and so the mental illness becomes a physical illness because of a brain malfunction, but the root of it is the emotional disturbance.
Yes.
Are our mental health providers able to focus on the root causes of the emotional disturbance rather than treat the physical manifestation with medication?
Yes.
And that may alter the behavior because it more or less puts them in a zombie-like state where they feel nothing, but it doesn't deal with the cause of the problem in the first place. What can you tell me about that? Is there more of a holistic approach to mental illness now?
That is a great question, Naima, and that is what the Lincoln Option Center. That's how we differ from most of our community mental health center partner agencies, because we focus on the cause of you're presenting to the community mental health center. People will come to you wanting to get a psych evaluation because they feel that they need medication management. They want to get psychotropic prescription medications, because they feel that the buzz is, if I have medication, I'm going to be okay. But you're not addressing the why. Yeah. Therapy helps you address the why. And when you come to the Lincoln Option Center, you have to have therapy, even if you're going to, if you have a psychiatric evaluation and it is deemed necessary that you are given a prescribed medication at a low dosage, monitored over time. every 30 days to make sure that those symptoms are reduced, because that is what therapy will do. And that's what our focus is, to reduce the symptoms of that diagnosis that you've been given: depression, anxiety, uh, any of those DSM-5 diagnoses, except for schizophrenia. We know that that is something that you're definitely going to have medication for. But if you're coming in for depression, you may not necessarily need medication. You need coping strategies to help you manage the reason why you are depressed. And that, alongside with the medication, can give you that balance. Then you can get off of that medication. You've gotten the tools that you need through therapy, being very focused on your goals and objectives, because that's going to get you back to your why you are here. Why are you depressed? Why do I have anxiety? You are focusing on that so that you can have reduced symptoms, because all of this is a symptom. That's an emotion.
Yes.
And we are focusing, and everyone should be focusing on the why am I hyped? Why am I crying all the time? Why am I doing whatever it is that you are doing sad?
Yes.
Focus on those symptoms to reduce it. And that is where good therapy and good mental health will come in, the practice, the effective practices. So I'm so glad that you asked that question, because that is, that's the best way to tackle mental health, and to empower someone to understand their diagnosis. And if they have a medical condition, understand that medical condition and how that medical condition can cause the anxiety and the depression, which now becomes a mental illness. That's why the integrated care is so important. It is so important.
Yeah.
So do not push medication. That is, that's not what we do. We're not the private practice. So you can't come to the Lincoln Option Center and think every 30 days you're going to just see the psychiatrist and get a prescription refill and not have therapy, because it doesn't work. It is not going to work.
Dr. Debbie mentioned something earlier when we were talking about suicide, how some cultures even encourage that or cause it to happen because there's such a deep fear of public shame. Yes. And I think I mentioned this before. I remember when I visited my daughter in South Korea, and we went to take the subway, and there's a glass wall on the platform between the train tracks and the train, so that you never have access to the tracks. And when the train stops, there's just it stops right at the door opening of this this glass wall. And then the door opens, the door slides open, at the same time the train door slides open, and then you get on the train, but the passengers never have access to the tracks. And I said, well, that's interesting. And she said, oh yeah, they built that because people were jumping in front of trains to commit suicide. They were having such a high rate of suicide. People would be distressed if their business failed, or they were failing in school. And so the train became a common means of taking one's life. So they had to bar people's access to the train tracks so they couldn't kill themselves. And I thought, oh, that's awful. But in that culture, there's a high fear of public shame. And you just feel like, I can't disgrace myself, my family, I'd rather die. So when you have situations like that, where it is almost culturally accepted to kill oneself rather than face what's perceived as disgrace, how do you help a person see that as mentally ill, you wanting to destroy your life? Because like everybody's doing it, or anybody who gets in this situation will do this. This is what you're expected to do. You're not expected to face being shamed. Is there a way to I guess reclassify suicide is not something honorable to do, but something that really is mentally ill?
Well, I think what the stigma of having a mental illness is what the education of having a mental illness and taking the stigma off of you to say that I don't want anybody to know that I'm feeling this way because they're going to think
Mm,
I'm crazy
mm,
and not being accepted. So the stigma has caused people to move into a space of self-inflicted harm, which is
wow.
suicide. Self-directed, I should say. Self-directed harm is suicide. And we are now, and the scholars are now trying to dispel the myth that uh, uh, accepting that you have a less acceptable to society uh, era on yourself, okay, or on yourself. I have a mental illness, but that doesn't mean that I'm any different from you. So I should not be treated differently. I should be accepted as you are accepted. But you may not accept your mental illness. I'm accepting mine. People, everyone is walking around with something every day. Everyone gets depressed about something, and in your life balance, something is making you become unbalanced. If you stay there in that space of I don't want anybody to know, it's taken over my life and I don't want to live anymore, that's a totally different situation right there. And that's where that suicidal ideation comes into play, where you can just have that thought. Having the thought of something and having a plan to execute is two different things.
Mm,
So if you are planning in your head, today
Yes,
I'm going to be
absolutely.
and have a plan to execute, that's some serious stuff right there. But if you're just casually saying it, that's that silent killer that Dr. Green was talking about. You
mm,
can get up every day and have a bad day, or tomorrow have a bad day, and say, I just don't want to get up anymore. I just
Hmm.
can't do this. That's a silent killer because if you continue to say those things to yourself and feel in that way, that will not empower you to get well.
mm,
But the stigma is
Right.
how we get rid of that stigma is to accept where we are in our time, present time and place, and know that there is help for that. There is no way that we're going to go through life without having a trigger every day. Every day brings about a different trigger. But don't get stuck on the stigma that I can't be accepted because I have a mental illness. And I think the pandemic really empowered a lot of people to accept where they are right now with their anxiety and depression. That's why we have more and more people coming into care and getting treatment because they've accepted where they are. But suicide ideation is very dangerous if you have a plan of action to execute it.
Hmm.
wow. Wow.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I just want to add to this. Holistic therapy is a very let's just say one of the best. I think holistic therapy is not just, as you said, being totally devoted to medications or chemicals to make you feel better. As I always
Mhm.
tell my patients, I told them, I said, there's not a pill for behavior, there's not a pill for attitude, there's not a
Mm,
pill for characteristics, there's not a
No,
pill for a view of life.
no.
There's not a pill for that. So you have to have balance in your being. And that's what I found out just as I've been in this field, that the imbalances from the mind and the heart and the spirit then causes those erratic thought patterns, because
Mhm.
we know that when a person has made a plan in place to take their life in some way, some forms of fashion, they are emotional. They're no longer logical. The logic went into putting the plan together, yes,
Right.
but the emotions are the ones that are out of control. You see what I'm
Mm-hmm.
saying? And the emotional mind is linked to the inner child mind because that's where it is.
Mm,
So it's a lot of inner child trauma, that has been lived out through the adult life. And there apparently there's no self-awareness. I believe that a person loses their ability to thrive when they're in that area, because that's when they look at things being totally impossible. When you look
Yes.
at it, you're no longer a problem solver. You remove yourself from looking at life solutions, but you just constantly again focusing on the have-nots. And we know that there's many options to look at things from a different platform of life, because if the perception doesn't change, it's just going to continue the same type of cycling. In
Mm-hmm.
depression, in anxiety, it just keeps getting deeper and deeper. Every time that cycling, they come out of one cycle, it may, what they call let up, for example, for 6 months to even a year. But anytime any type of situation that happens, if they are not mentally or emotionally strong enough, they go right back down into, I call, the rabbit hole. And the
Mm-hmm.
rabbit hole is dark. There's no light there, so that they can really see themselves. I truly believe that a person loses their identity within themselves if they never had it. Like, clients and patients I talk to, I never knew who I was.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I always thought I was this person that was supposed to do things for other people. I've never done anything for myself. So they
Mm-hmm.
had low self worth, low self esteem, codependency. And those areas right there are not, uh, building up the self, but taking away from the self. And that's just within the person's human, ability to understand themselves, and
Mm-hmm.
that they don't have a higher power for guidance, then that's when things definitely get to the point of no return. So
And
it's definitely a process of things.
I want to say this too. One of the things that I think would be empowering is, say if you and I had a family, you or I had a family member that was struggling with something, a depression or whatever they're going through. Rather than in years ago, we used to just hide that person, from every other family member. We knew something was going
definitely.
on with that person, lock them in the closet. We had the
Mhm.
of crazy Uncle Joe up in the closet. Well, crazy Uncle
Hmm.
Joe is not in the closet anymore. He's right in the attic. He's walking side by side with us, and we need to be more supportive of our family members when you're going through something, because rather than to say just get over it, encourage them to get treatment and encourage them to speak to someone that is in a position to help them in a non-biased way, because we can be very biased when it's our people that are close to us, because we don't want to deal with what they're going through. And that's where that stigma stays there,
Right.
because you know I'm shaming my family. I know that I'm not feeling well, but I can't talk to them because they're not accepting where I am right now in my space and place.
Mhm.
So that is where I go back to that stigma, and we can be our family's own worst enemies too. We're not, we shouldn't enable that stigma to live within them. That presence needs to go away. So we need to be
Hmm.
empowering and encouraging people to get our family, our loved ones to get to treatment, and that will help with that silent suicidal ideation.
Mm. When you mentioned that about the how we
Yes.
lock away the person in the family who had a problem. I think about that scene in the movie Soul Food.
Absolutely.
You know, the crazy Uncle Joe or whatever, he was locked up in his room, never left his room, and I mean that they just brought him his food and that was his life. You know, of course he knew it was something, either he had dementia or whatever, but that was how they dealt with it. They just you know,
they knew it was there, but no one dealt with it.
No one dealt with it.
No one dealt with it.
Yeah, and there are a lot of families like that where you know there's a person who can't function, and there's a stigma about mental illness, so nobody deals with it, nobody talks about it. You just keep them away from everybody, and that's just how the family has adjusted. So have we evolved from that? Are we still doing that? Crazy Uncle Joe in the attic or the basement?
Yes, you'd be surprised. You would be surprised.
Wow.
Yeah. So yeah.
I believe it is. I believe it is. Because people hide from themselves. So hide from.
You don't need that medication. You don't know if they need that medication if they're on it, you know. But medication and therapy will get them better. So let the professionals help your loved one.
We got to take another break, but when we come back, Dr. Debbie, I'd like to look at, a lot of people are afraid when they see somebody out in public and they're talking to themselves. They don't have an earpiece in, so they're not having a conversation with somebody. But there's a fear that person could suddenly become violent, and that's why people will call the police on somebody who is talking to themselves, because there's fear that means that could erupt into harming someone else. People who are not in mental health, and you all are, but people who are not, they're afraid of that, and so we criminalize people who are mentally ill.
Yes.
Maybe y'all can tell us, should we be, or should we not fear them? What are signs that someone could be violent? Well, we'll talk about that when we get back. And of course, if you're on our switchboard now and have a question, don't wait till 5 minutes before it's time to go, because you won't have time to speak. Press 1 now and get your question or comment to Doctors Green, Dr. Debbie, and Dr. Twin. No relation, maybe it could be, but we want you to call us 515-605-9325 and press 1. We do have a caller in the queue. And again, we are discussing on Soulful Solutions with Dr. Debbie Green. We're talking to Dr. Twin Green, and her organization is planning a big gala to, of course, raise funds and highlight awareness on treatment for mental illness. And we are taking a look at suicide and the deaths that come from one's own hand and its connection to mental illness. How can we help? So we will be right back after this quick break. So stick and stay. Don't stray away. We'll be back in a moment, so stay with us.
Have you ever dreamed of going to exotic places, meeting fascinating people, enjoying uplifting music, and spending nights in a luxurious hotel? Do you look forward to a relaxing vacation where you can walk along the beach or sit in a quiet park and enjoy the sunset or sunrise? Whether you're flying around the world or driving across the country, we will share travel tips that will help you stay safe while you enjoy the journey. Join me every third Saturday of the month, 12 noon to 2 p.m. Central Standard Time, and move around with Deborah here on the Female Solutions Show. Call in and comment 515-605-9325 and press 1 to speak.
Hi, this is John Alexander.
And I'm Naima Latif. Meet people like you who are making a positive difference in the world. Watch us every day on The Media Connection at www.youtube.com/TheMediaConnectionTV.
YouTube it. We'll see you soon.
are people who choose to make a positive difference in the world. Our job is to bring you their stories to motivate you to do the same. Join us each week, host John Alexander and Naima Latif, as we bring you the educators, entertainers, elected officials, religious leaders, and community activists whose works are transforming this world. Find out how you can make a difference too. Be inspired. Watch The Media Connection, Mondays at 5 p.m. and Tuesdays at 12 noon on cable TV, Channel 19 in Chicago. In other cities, check your local cable listings.
Do you worry about finances, family, health, job, relationships? Are you in pain? Do you feel stuck? If you answered yes to any of these questions, help is available. Don't worry, you're not alone. It's part of the human process. You only feel this way because you haven't mastered the voices in your head. No hype, down to earth, solid, workable tools and techniques that you can practice daily. It's really food for the soul. Whether you want to learn how not to worry about anything, reverse type 2 diabetes, publish a book, promote your product or service, or just make extra money. To take advantage of the deal of the day, go to zeldaspeaks.com or call 312-409-6619. Mention promo code The Female Solution and get free shipping. That's zeldaspeaks.com or 312-409-6619. Stop worrying today. Visit zeldaspeaks.com.
Something else. And there we go. All right.
All right, welcome back. Welcome back to Soulful Solutions. My name is Dr. Debbie Green with our wonderful co-host Naima Latif, our executive producer of the Female Solution, and we have our wonderful guest on today, Dr. Twin Green from I gotta say this, the Option in Link. Did I say Link in Option?
The LinkedIn Option Center.
Link and Option
Link
Center.
in Options. Link and
Option
Center.
Center.
Is that correct?
Right.
Yes. The link.
Yes.
The link
Awesome.
and options.
And option.
The link.
Center.
And option.
Okay. Gotcha. Well, welcome again. welcome again. So can we take that caller, please?
Yes. And we are talking about depression and suicide and mental illness. So if you have had issues with depression or have considered suicide, feel free to press 1 if you're in our studio, or if you are listening online, call in 515-605-9325, or if you are on our Facebook and YouTube page, Soulful Solutions with Dr. Debbie Green, write your comments in and share them with our viewing audience. And 312-833, give us your name and your question as it relates to mental illness and suicide.
Oh, okay, all right, we win. God and the people win. This is Minister Robert Floyd from Chicago, Illinois, and thank you for taking my call for us all. It was great to see you, Sister Naima Latif. Assalamu alaikum. We're in Yashalom.
Yes.
That means we're one in God.
Yes, we are.
As Rainbow Push Coalition this week.
Yes, very, very powerful event. Yes, it was. Yes.
I think I've had, and still possibly might be in that type of situation, not suicide, of course, but it's stress, you know. So I wanted to know from either Dr. Twin Green or Dr. Debbie Green. I like to think of both of them as part of the problem solvers or solution. I do drumming, you know, with the 63rd Street drummers, and I wanted to know if they think that drumming might be a part of a therapy for brothers and sisters or men, women, and children to be a part of the solution of a situation that might be, you know, stressful for people, or possibly in a mental illness situation, to become, you know, a part of the solution.
That's a good question.
You know,
Well, that's a good question, and I think music in general, I think sometimes can be therapeutic. Thank you, Minister Plump. You know, also Minister Plump is a war veteran, and I know a lot of our veterans walk around with PTSD and look for ways to soothe themselves. So music, drumming, you know, humming, even are there ways to actually help the mind? What would you say?
I would say yes. Anything that therapeutically, if you use it in a space of therapy for therapy services, in a therapeutic way, with that focus there to create a calming effect and put a person in another space to distract them from what they're presently feeling, the levels of anxiety from another situation. Anytime you have an opportunity to present something different that is good, that will make them feel good, that is always welcoming as part of the solution. So I applaud you for presenting something like that to society, because we use art therapy, we use music for therapy, we use, you know, all kinds of strategies to combat and reduce those symptoms that we're feeling, so that we can get better. And drama, you never know where that can take you. You can, you know, take you into a place where you think you're somebody else, you know. Well, yeah, I would, and actually, I would like to actually witness your drama program, you know, because that might
it's drumming, like with
drumming.
drums.
You said drama, drumming,
yeah.
Drumming. Well, that's music.
Yes, music, right? Music therapy.
I'm sorry, I thought you said drama, but yeah, drumming, yes, because we need all of those kinds of diversions, you know, to empower us, and then that will just make us like ourselves better, because now we know how to do something different. And the beat of the drum is like a beat to your heart.
Yes.
So you're becoming more in sync with yourself. So yeah,
right.
I say yes.
And I know they use music therapy a lot of times with children who are disturbed or even autistic. You know, I've seen they use music therapy, different kinds.
We use it as well. Art and music therapy. It's soothing.
Yes.
It's soothing.
Yes.
Dr. Green, I'll yield to you.
It is, and it also, because drumming is okay. It's also good because you are applying pressure with your hands. So, and one thing, you know, just from my experience, a lot of times we hold things inside, and anytime hand and eye coordinations is always good, especially when we're applying the pressure. I know some of the adolescents, we often suggest to their families that they, you know, get into some type of contact sport if they are having issues with anxiety or even behavior defiance, and that is a way that they can act out their emotions. So I can imagine that drumming, depending, like if he's talking about the bongo drumming or drumming with the sticks or whatever, but it helps to express and act out emotions in the drums. Like when anytime you applying pressure to anything, it really helps that person tremendously.
What about that therapy? And I don't know what it's called, or if there's a name for it. But when someone is really angry and they give them a stick and have them beat beat a bag or something like that, one of those big, you know, medicine bags or whatever, but they take their anger out by beating something which may represent the person that they're angry at. I don't know what that therapy is called, but when you're so mad you want to hit somebody, but they have you hit a thing to release the anger.
I mean, you
Is,
got
is there a
punching
name for that?
bags.
It's probably associated with anger management.
All I know is punching bags.
Yeah, like punching bag. Yeah,
Yeah.
So is that what punching bags are for? To release anger, so you don't hit
Yeah,
a person.
punching bags are for that. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Rather than hit someone, you hit that thing to get that,
Mhm.
to release that aggression.
Yeah, that's interesting.
Yeah.
So now the thing with, like you mentioned, suicide, of course, is self-harm. And Dr. Debbie, you've dealt with a lot of murder suicides where a person is really suicidal, but they decide to take everybody with them. It's obviously there's a level of mental illness where they've just snapped. But when someone is mentally ill, like we were talking about, the person that's talk to themselves or whatever, how do you know if that person is a danger to someone else? Especially if they're living in a reality that's in their own mind, maybe walking around talking to themselves, maybe reliving a thing that they went through, and you see them walking around, they're hitting at the air and screaming at somebody who's not there. Is that a person who is dangerous and should be contained? I've seen those kind of people get arrested if they're sitting around, minding their own business, even though they're in their own head. But people are afraid of them because the fear is they could suddenly,
Yeah.
in their own delusion, turn violent at some innocent stranger. Is that a possibility or not? Or would each person have to be,
That definitely
I
sounds
guess,
like some
evaluated?
schizophrenia you're talking about. But most of the time,
Yeah. So
yeah,
is
everybody has to
schizophrenia?
be evaluated. It doesn't. People who talk to themselves are not necessarily. What I'm saying is, people who talk to themselves are not necessarily violent. It's
Right.
just that they are responding to internal stimuli.
Yes.
So people often, well, normal people, because ain't nobody normal these days, but I just say it for the sake of understanding.
Such a thing.
Normal people look at it like, they look at it as though, oh, what's going on with this person? They're screaming and yelling and they're talking and aggravating themselves, and they assume that this person is going to do something wrong. But it doesn't always. No, it's no, it's not like that. It's just that we don't understand the dynamics of the human internal conflict.
Yes.
Oh, excuse me.
Yeah, that's one of the things that kind of concern me, is the way mentally ill people are responded to with
I
fear.
apologize.
It's like somebody was distracting a bit there.
So, so it's interesting that you say that, Naima,
Well,
because
yes, my cat was distracting.
is that what happened?
Oh, Kitty, you got something you want to say? See, probably wanted to
You had a comment.
add a comment. Yeah.
I when these earplugs first came uh, around, uh, I live in a very quiet community. Thank God for right now to be in that, to be able to say that. And so there was this young guy that used to walk he would, I guess, I don't know if he was walking from the, from the bus stop or walking from the store or whatever, but every day I would hear him walking down the street and he was having a conversation. And I said, oh man, he must be sick, because I'm in that space. I'm like, he's talking to himself. And so I asked my son one day, I said, no, my son was outside. I said, oh, I made reference. I said, he must be, just, needing some help. I should try to get him to come into the Lincoln Options. And he said, Mom, there's nothing wrong with him. He has an earpiece in his ear. And he's talking to someone.
He really is talking to someone else.
But he was loud because he's outside and he's walking. And so I'm thinking I'm all in his head and he's not even in that place. We can become fearful of people that are walking the streets and they're talking to themselves. Yes. And schizophrenics do that. But I don't know if we necessarily need to be afraid of them because they're walking and talking to themselves, because they're in their own space. Stay in your space.
Yeah.
And not be a trigger to that person, because they have boundaries. And if you get too close to them and you get in their space, it may trigger them to react.
That's what people fear, because mental illness is so unpredictable. And I remember a time, because I've always had the habit of talking to myself, it was really disturbing to my husband when we first got married. Be in the house together, you're having a conversation with yourself.
Yeah.
And so, but one day I was walking down the street and I was upset about something, and I'm having this conversation. I'm talking, and when I talk, I move my hands. So I'm walking down the street, I'm talking, and I'm moving my hands. Of course, I look like schizophrenic.
Yes.
And I noticed this couple that was walking toward me, and then I noticed them cross the street, and I realized that I had frightened.
Yeah.
Because, I looked like I was out of my mind.
Yeah,
but
they didn't know what to do.
But that behavior isn't necessarily something people should fear, because someone is really in their own mind and would not necessarily then suddenly, oh, I'm mad at this person in my head, let me strangle you. I don't know. That's what people fear will happen if someone is not in this reality. They're in the reality of their mind.
Yeah, they're not in a healthy mindset, but that doesn't mean that they're going to harm you all the time. I would just be very cautious about how close you get to that person when they're in their own space, because you become a trigger.
So they don't necessarily need to be subdued or locked away or, call the police, call 911. This guy talking to himself out here. They don't necessarily need that.
No, he needs help. He needs help. Right. It's not what people think.
It's the way you make that call for help.
Yeah.
It's the way you make the call for help and make sure that you say this person is not harming anyone.
Yeah.
First, there is no threat of harm present, but we know that someone may need some mental health services. Because their appearance is not healthy right now, professionally. Then that is how, when law enforcement presents themselves, they're not presenting in a combative way and trigger to be more, to trigger them to really explode into themselves, because they didn't call for anybody to come and help them in the first place. They didn't ask for any help, but here you go.
In their own mind, they didn't.
Yeah, I didn't call for anybody to come and help me. So why are you even here?
Yeah.
Why are you even here?
Like, why are you disturbing my peace?
Why are you disturbing my peace? That's right.
And it's best to leave them alone. Like you said, cross the street and keep on going, because they're not, again, the internal stimuli is where they are talking to what they're hearing. They're speaking to what they hear inside their head. And they're
Yeah.
not even, most of the time, they're not even focused on you.
Yeah.
You
Absolutely
know,
not.
and you're like, well, I mean, that's an odd thing to do, but the ego will present itself as an active, let's just say, as words, as emotions, and as another entity. You know, I think that's, they have odd behavior because this is the mind. The mind is that way. So, I mean, to be honest with you, schizophrenia, just according to my data, people who have that type of, diagnosis are not likely to commit suicide. It's more the people who have depression.
Mm. So people who are creating their own reality in their own mind are probably better able to cope than people who are connected to reality, but they're so depressed by it that they can't cope with it. And they end up being the ones that would be more likely to commit suicide.
Well, I
Possibly.
just think they get into a rageful bout with either themselves or with, yeah, I think that's what it is. It gets deep down inside, I had one of my patients refer to depression as frozen rage, that they felt so rigid that they were so angry they didn't know what else to do, but
Mhm.
tried to take their lives on numerous occasions. And I think that has a lot of, and again, I wanted to kind of go into gun violence and suicide as well, because I think me and Dr. Toy was talking last night, and she's like, a lot of the suicides are not always linked to mental illness, it's linked to rage. And
Mm,
rage is not a mental illness.
is a
No,
condition.
it is
Right.
emotion that has been not dealt with.
So most people that run around and decide they're going to mass kill people, they're not in a healthy mind. But hate is not a mental illness. And most times when people are
Correct.
killing people, when they are selectively killing people, that is very calculated, very intentional, and it is not a mental illness that is driving that. That is either hate, which is not a mental illness, radicalism is not a mental illness, terrorism is not a mental illness. And so we have to be very careful about
Right.
stigmatizing mental illness with gun violence.
Mm.
We
So,
cannot we cannot do that because most people that are killing people are not those people that have a mental illness, that they're just depressed. Those people are not the people that are running around just massively killing people. They're killing
It's not
people.
everybody.
It's right. They're killing others and they're killing themselves because of whatever they're going through, but it is not because they have a diagnosed mental illness that
mm,
should
that
be associated with gun violence. All because what's going to happen, that stigma will say to people that do have a valid mental illness, they will not want to go and get help because they're locked in and viewed as those killers. You're putting gun violence and mental
yeah.
illness in the same context, and you cannot do that because we are trying to get people to understand the difference in gun violence. Gun violence is an intentional act. Suicide is a self-directed act. Mental illness is over here by itself. They may have been depressed
Right.
about it, but to go that far, to go and start
Hmm.
shooting up people, that stems from something else. That stems from hate. And that is not a mental illness, and you cannot hide behind a mental illness after you have acted in such a way that have taken someone else's life.
I think our society tries to figure out how to prevent gun violence by linking it to mental illness, as if to say, well, if we can catch this mentally ill person before they go and shoot people, then we can prevent the crime. But like you say, the people who are doing these mass shootings and things like that, they don't have any history of mental illness. And I notice how there's always a rush to try to find something in their past. Did they ever go to a therapist, or did they ever show depression? Were they on any kind of medication? They're always an attempt to try to link those crimes to mental illness, as if to say, well, a normal person wouldn't do that. Right. And yet the people who are doing it are the ones who are walking around every day considered normal. Like you say, anger is not a mental illness. Rage is not a mental illness. Hate is not a mental illness. So the people who are doing these things, they're so-called in their right mind, and they go and buy a gun. It's very calculated, the decision, I'm going to kill these people for whatever reason is in their head. But there's nothing, there's no warning. I guess that's what people are terrified of.
Yes.
They want there to be some kind of warning signs that someone's going to commit a shooting. And there aren't any. And usually when the person does it, the neighbors and friends will say, but they were so quiet, or you know, they kept to themselves. Or it was always something where it was behavior that was very non-recognizable, nothing strange about them at all.
Yeah,
that people could see. That's what people are afraid of. And even the lobbyists for gun safety laws, they're saying, well, we need to have background checks to make sure this person doesn't have any mental illness. And it's not the mentally ill that are shooting people.
That's right. That's exactly what I'm talking about. And I was actually on a panel back in March. Our newly elected Congressman Jonathan Jackson of the 1st Congressional District, within his first 100 days, did something that no one else had been able to do in all these elected officials that are representing the state of Illinois. Senator Dick Durbin was actually there, but this is not something that he had even done in all of the years that he's been there, was to bring the Health and Human Services Secretary Xavier Becerra. And we were at Kennedy King College, and also brought Michael Cabanarci, the director of Health and Human Services, was on the panel. And so the topic for that discussion was it was a community roundtable on mental health and gun violence. And there has been a lot of legislation trying to get passed where they were linking those two together, and I had to share how it should not be a statement put together. That context doesn't work together because of self-directed violence, suicide, and how hate is not a mental illness. And these mass shootings, you can't say that someone with a mental illness is, that person is going to be the one that you need to go and look for, because that's going to be the person that's going to go around killing everybody. No, and so we had a very powerful hour on that, and they left that roundtable discussion really understanding that we have a lot of work to do to separate
mental illness,
gun violence, and unassociating them, linking them together that way, because it will do more harm. The consequences will be that there will be less people going in to get treatment.
Because of the stigma.
Because of that.
Yes. We got to take one last break. We got to take one last break, and I know that there are people who are concerned about how to recognize signs. And I think the whole thing is people are trying to figure out how to prevent people who are depressed or suicidal from killing themselves and others. So maybe you can share some signs that people can look for in family members, if there are signs of depression.
Mm-hmm.
And then also, and Dr. Debbie, I don't know what the situation is in Atlanta, but I know in Chicago, and our new mayor Brandon Johnson has been saying
Mm-hmm.
a lot of the 911 calls really are mental health crisis calls, and we currently don't
Mm-hmm.
have, I don't think, enough people who are able to go and deal with a mental health crisis and not criminalize it.
Yes.
And that's, I think, what we need to be able to do,
Yeah.
so that people aren't arrested for either trying to kill themselves or,
Mm-hmm.
you know,
Mm-hmm.
harm themselves because they're depressed.
Right.
So, well, we'll be right back after this quick break, and I think we got another caller on the line. If you're on our switchboard now, we got quite a few callers on the switchboard. Please press 1 now so you can have time to speak. And we want to make sure Dr. Green gives us the information about her upcoming gala that's going to be a benefit to the mental health community. So we'll be right back after this last break. So stick and stay. Don't stray away. We'll be back in a moment. Stay with us. And
What happens when a group of people are kidnapped?
sorry.
We have an opportunity to transform the whole global society in the next 50 years. 50 years from now, the earth will be populated by a new generation of adults, many of whom are yet unborn. Our mission is to nurture them in childhood with love, guidance, and protection, and to raise them in healthy, happy families. If we impart values of compassion, generosity, and respect for fellow human beings in the next generation of children, they will create a world where people can live together in peace. This is our goal. Be a part of the transformation. Get your copy of the book, The Female Solution. Go to www.naimalatif.com. That's www.naimalatif.com. Hi, I'm Mama Joy. And I'm Reverend Rosemary. Join us every second Saturday of the month, 12 noon to 2 p.m. Central Time, here on the Female Solution, global radio TV show for Neighborship of Joy. We'll have powerful conversations inviting women to walk in the light. So call in 515-605-9325 and press 1 to speak to the host. You can also join us live on the Female Solution Facebook page and YouTube channel. So see you on the second Saturday on the Neighborship of Joy. Hey, it's time to take charge of your health. I'm Bianca, your holistic life coach, and every Friday morning at 8 a.m. Eastern Daylight Time, I'm here on the Female Solution to empower you to make choices that will assist your evolution to abundant health. I'm also blogging every Sunday evening at 8 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time at Soul Purpose Healing, where I bring you a spiritual chiropractic adjustment to bring you back into alignment with our Creator's love, compassion, and wisdom. Join me every Friday morning at 8 a.m. and Sunday evening at 8 p.m. for a time of unity, enlightenment, and love vibration. Shalom.
Okay, welcome back. Welcome back to Soulful Solutions. We are at the top of the hour, and our wonderful guest, Dr. Twin Green, and I also my co-host Naima Latif, our executive producer of the Female Solution. So whenever she gets back to her desk, we're going to go ahead and take those callers, and then we're going to talk about this wonderful gala.
Thank you, Dr. Gray.
All right, let's see here. Yes. Uh-oh, wait a minute.
I'm sorry, but I did not hear you press at least.
Sorry.
The pen you entered does not match the pen you have on your
I'm crazy. Okay. Anyway, let me get ready to bring on a caller. And if you are watching us live or you'd like to watch us live, you can go to Facebook or you can go to YouTube, and it's Dr. Debbie Green, right? On YouTube as well.
Yes.
Yes. And
Welcome to Blog Talk Radio.
I'm sorry. Get reconnected to our listening audience. There we go. Okay. And I think our caller dropped, but they'll come back in. Oh, there we go. Okay. All right. Let's see if we can bring on our caller.
Okay.
In the meantime, let's Dr. Green, if you can tell us a bit about our gala.
Go ahead, Dr. Green.
I am so excited. I am so excited. This year marks our 29th year improving the lives of people in need. And this Oscars is actually an evening at the Oscars. It is the most anticipated fabulous event of the South Cook County, South Suburban region. We have at 6 p.m. is our cocktail reception hour where we're having a red carpet walk, and then we have our gala dinner. We have an award ceremony and an Oscars after party. We have 10 very powerful League of Legend champion awardees, Oscar honorees, Honorable Jonathan L. Jackson, U.S. Congressman of the 1st Congressional District, Honorable Nicholas K. Smith, State Representative of the 34th District, Honorable D. Renee Jackson, Circuit Judge, Honorable John A. Ferriman, Associate Judge, Honorable Nicole Patton, Circuit Judge, Calvin Jordan, Rich Township Supervisor, Benita Estelle, ComEd's External Affairs Manager, David Berkey, CEO of the Illinois Health Practice Alliance, Mayor Sheila Chalmers Curran, Village President of Matheson, and Sita Bala from the U.S. Department of Labor. We are going to have a red carpet walkway hostess, red carpet media, photography. Come out dressed to impress. This is a showstopper. You do not want to miss it. It is going to be held on July 29th at the Olympia Fields Country Club, which is the most breathtaking private club in the South Cook County area. And they are actually having the BMW golf tournament there. This is how exclusive this place is. Mm-hmm. Tickets are $100. Everything goes to our programs and services because we are a community mental health center, and there are a lot of needs within that space of mental health, addiction treatment, social determinants of health. We bridge families back together, and we need your support. Tickets, if you want to purchase tickets are still available. You can go to our website, www.link-option.com, or you can call our office at 708-331-8111 and ask to speak to Pat. www.link-option.com or 708-331-8111. This is an event that you do not want to miss. Come dressed to impress and have a good time from
All right.
6 p.m. until midnight.
And again, that is Saturday, July 29th.
Saturday, yes.
And that's the last Saturday of the month. So that's Saturday, July 29th. And again, when does it start? What time?
At 6 p.m. That's the red
6
carpet
p.m.
walk. Get your photos, walk that carpet.
Okay, wear your evening gown and your
Right.
tuxedo and your snazzy suit and your high heels and shine shoes and recently done hair and nails and all that stuff.
And you would think you were in Hollywood at the Oscars.
That's right. Dressed like you're going to the Oscars.
Absolutely, that's what it is.
This should really be a fabulous event, and we love to dress up and we love to look fabulous and everything. But also it's for a good cause, and we know that there is a lot of help that's needed, and we need to be able to pay our mental health professionals, to help people who may not have the means to pay our mental health professionals, but we still want them to get treatment. So all of this goes to support really what is helping our collective community. If there's one of us that's sick, then all of us are sick. It's like we're all cells in the body of God. And if one of us is sick, then the whole body is sick. Just like we can't feel comfortable if there are people in our midst that are mentally ill, because it is going to affect our whole environment. So we have to care, we have to reach out, and we have to remove the stigma of mental illness, so that when people know that they're not feeling well, know that they've reached that point of breakdown, that they don't feel ashamed to ask for help. I think that's been the biggest thing, is the stigmatizing of people when they need help. And certain words in our vocabulary, like crazy and other things that
have no place.
We need to eliminate. If a person is going through a mental health crisis, then they should have compassion. Just like if you broke a leg, you wouldn't ridicule somebody whose leg was broken. So if someone's heart is broken, from a grief, a loss, something that has just hurt them badly and they're suffering inside, they deserve compassion, and they deserve to be able to get the help that these wonderful professionals are trained to provide. So again, give us that phone number to call in for tickets and that website.
Mm-hmm. The phone number is 708-331-8111. Our website is www.link-option.com. And if you cannot attend and you still want to support us through donation, please do so.
Yes.
We would love to have you there, but we would love your support financially as well.
Absolutely.
And we will forever be grateful.
Mm-hmm. Yes. Give if you can't go.
Give if you can't go. I like that.
Let me open the mic. We got a couple of callers here. We start out with area code 773-737. Introduce yourself to our listening and viewing audience and give us your question for Dr. Debbie and Dr. Twin Green.
Well, hallelujah. Greetings, Global Transformers. Grand Rising.
Grand Rising.
Mama D in Chicago.
Yes, ma'am.
Grand Rising.
I'm glad you said hate and a plan to commit mass murder that is carried out is not a mental illness. Yes. Mental illness is when people don't know what they're doing and they start talking to themselves. Mm-hmm. And other people
they're living in their own mind.
However, I think untreated hard mind poverty and subjugated brain damage is different from mental illness because it comes from 346 years of federal slavery crimes against humanity and Jim Crow genocide of a people who have never been made whole with reparations. Now, I call this the subjugated syndrome. You don't hear other people talking about their slanted eyes. And you don't hear other people talking about the nappy hair and big lips and black skin. And when I was growing up, I heard adults saying things like, "Oh, two black people can't get married because the children will be too black." See, that's a subjugated syndrome kind of damage unique to that group based on what has happened to them. But no other race of people are engaged in that kind of self-mutilation that we have been culturally conditioned to do because of the images that have been put before us. But in conclusion, I was thinking about what John Brown said. John Brown was about to be hung for helping the slaves. And he said, well, you can dispose of me very easily. As a matter of fact, I'm already disposed of. But this question, this Negro question, the end of that is not yet. So I'm very concerned when we when NAA, Indigenous Native American Africans, raise their hands and say, I'm mentally ill, like I got schizophrenia and I need to be medicated, and not dealing with the intergenerational epigenetics inherited DNA because of the never-ending trauma that we have been under through governmental policies, plans, and laws. So I think that this is the perfect answer to this question, this Negro question. Just raise your hand, say how crazy you are, because if they put you in jail, you might break chains and get out one day. But if they put you in a mental institution where you are constantly medicated and where you have you become an adult ward property of the state, that is the solution. That we have to be careful that we don't go along with it because we're got our hand up. Because when we had the violence with a black face, you know how that turned out for us. We got our hand up. Oh, I'm mentally ill. Please make me an adult ward property of the state.
Well, Mama D, Mama D, you raised the issue with, and I guess, and then thank you so much for your call. Of course, Mama D, she is definitely one who's been championing the rights of the downtrodden and been our fourth Saturday host here on the Female Solution. But I guess that brings forth the question: if a person is growing up in a society where they're always treated mean, maybe for whatever reason, maybe their particular group is stigmatized or whatever, can that create a chronic state of depression? Can that lead to depression that can evolve into suicidal behavior or such self-contempt where you don't enjoy your life or you feel worthless? Just being in that environment perpetually.
Absolutely.
Can that drive you to a state of mental illness?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. Just imagine yourself in that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
All you have to do is imagine your life being in that situation, that space, and that place. No recourse, no support to come out of that, because you've been in it for so long. You don't even see your way out of that.
Yeah. I mean, I was at a seminar where they were talking about cyberbullying and how a lot of young people are committing suicide because they're being bullied. They're having people, say, and it's even worse when it's online. People saying awful things about you and people laughing at you and ridiculing you. And young people don't have the emotional strength, ability, and confidence to combat that. So just being in that environment where you're allowed to be made fun of, and maybe adults not really coming to your defense or paying attention, and how that's affecting our young people. So
it creates a world of identity crisis.
Yes.
That transference right there.
Absolutely. We got another caller on the line. Might be able to squeeze through before our last minute. 872-337. Got about 30 seconds to make your question or comment. Go right ahead.
Well, I want to say that trauma is depressive.
This Rashida Ali sounds like. Yes. Thank you so much for calling.
And I say mental illness, if it's always somebody else's fault and never your fault, then that's a sign of mental illness. But I do know that it's emotionally disturbing when you're dark skinned anyway, because you get discriminated and punished by your own color. So that can cause a mental unbalance, because you're not balanced when you're traumatized. So if you always somebody else's fault and never your fault, that is a form of mental illness. But the reason why I called mainly is because I need someone to help with the homeless, other than collect money and say they're doing something for the homeless. Because at this point, I'm in transition and I've been helping the homeless a lot. Now I have 5 homeless people that were illegally dispossessed from their home with no 5-day notice or anything. And it's too much for me, because I cannot facilitate the need. And the social worker that was in the community, this lady, 67 years old, she lived in a private house, not a subsidized house. The owner, the Mexican owner of the building across the street from me, put boards up to her door, and she was walking. She had no family. She was walking the street, and she received somebody knocked her upside the head, bust her head off. She doesn't drink or anything like that. She smokes cigarettes, but that's no reason for nobody to bust her head. But when you're in transition, people have a tendency to label you at point of finger, but that lady did nothing to nobody. So after that, they changed the lock on the door. She didn't owe any money. But see, the thing is, she needs a housekeeper. Instead of them with services, they punished her, which caused more stress on her.
That is happening. That is happening. Well, Rashida, we're going to call you after the show. We're going to call you after the show so we can get more in depth in that and find some resources to help. And, often poverty is criminalized because, and I can see how that would even drive a person to over the edge when you don't have money and you end up homeless and you're on the street and people see that you're unkempt. The assumption is that you're mentally ill because you're out here, and then you get treated badly by law enforcement. And a lot of that just escalates into creating a problem for people and creating a state of depression and creating rage, even because you're being treated badly and you get punished for being treated badly. So, well, in the last few minutes, I guess, Dr. Debbie, you and Dr. Green can give us some tips on what we can do when we see people who are in distress and need help, even if they haven't asked for it. How do we help them?
I would say, know your community, know what resources are within that community, and, reach out to that community partner to inform them that there is someone in need. If you can't do it, know who can. And like I said earlier, if you have to call law enforcement, be very intentional about how you present that situation so that that person is not a threat, so that the police will not approach them in a state of, I've got to protect myself from them. I'm coming to help them. So that is very important.
How you make that call.
How you make that call and know who to call
Mhm.
in a community that has the resources to help someone that's in need of care.
60 seconds.
Yes. All right. Well, Dr. Debbie.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, I totally agree with that. Again, we can't save the world. We can't save the world. And so, as I talk to Rashida and I listen to her, I understand you have a great concern with helping everyone, but you need to do them one at a time. There's no way you're going to be able to do it all because no one can. It doesn't matter how big, or what, how big your heart is. It's just that the resources are not there. The resources are not there. But again, let's just be mindful of our actions because depression is real. Anything can put a person in depression because we are all
10
one step
seconds.
from loss that could take us there. So just be mindful and take care of yourself. And
All
thank you,
right. Thank
Facebook, for watching. Thank you, YouTube, for watching. Please give us some subscribe. Definitely subscribe to our channel and let us know if there's any topics that you may be interested in that we haven't discussed recently or previously. And I thank you so much, Dr. Green, as always. Thank
Thank
you.
you.
And I definitely got. I wish I'd known previously because I would have been at that gala, honey. But that's a little bit too last moment for me.
you.
But
Can't
I will
quite get a plane
definitely
ticket in time.
sow a seed to you.
Okay. Well, next
Yes,
year
yes, I
I'm
will
30,
definitely
so
sow a
plan
seed
to
to
be
you
in
because I
there.
understand.
And give us that website again.
Yes, just
www
give me a 30-day notice.
www.link-option.com 708-331-8111. Be in the place. If you can't support, give. If you can't go.
All right. Give if you can't go. That's right. Well,
Okay.
I'll be there and I'll give because I definitely want to make
Oh,
sure
thank
that
you.
I'm in the place.
Thank you. Next year, Dr. Green, that's our 30th. So come on with it, girl.
Oh, yeah. There you go. We'll give you enough time to get a plane ticket.
Yes.
Thank you so much.
Well, we
Yes,
thank
just tell me a month in advance, and I'll be there.
Okay.
well, we want to thank everybody for listening
Yes,
in and
ma'am.
watching. And of course, join us tomorrow for Health and Well-Being with Viata here on the Female Solution Global Radio TV show.
We've come to the end of our show today, but you can hear
All
every
right.
show at www.blogtalkradio.com/the-female-solution.